Okay, good evening everybody. We're going to make a start. Before we start formally, I've got to announce that we have some technical problems. We would usually have the microphones, but we don't have microphones this evening, which means we can't do the webcast where people will be able to follow the proceedings at home, either live. Please bear with us. This is where we would like to consult, because we have two. We've got the Peacock Industrial Estate tagged lovely. They're here with their deputations, and I understand that some of their supporters are here as well. So we're going to ask you both, with the two deputations, whether you would like to proceed tonight. If you would, then we will carry on with the meeting. If you would prefer for us to come back when we have sorted out the technology, then we'll come back at a later time. We'll of course let you know when that is. So if I could give you a couple of minutes to consult with your colleagues, and then you could let us know.
Just coincidence.
Yeah, so you have a couple of minutes to let us know what you decide.
Because it's a coincidence. So they can say like 3 months and then they get the ballot done.
Yeah, for real.
Look at the bastard.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll just turn it off and then we'll still record.
Take control of the chat.
So we need to ask. Let's just ask.
Joanna.
We have a dictaphone where it's going to be recorded, so the sound will be picked up. And we don't have a video.
Okay, so what we're suggesting between ourselves, because this is a fundamental part of deputation, this is what we do, the sound and the big recording. I think that with everyone having a phone here, I think it's unfair that we are free to video record to our phones and record our own MP3s on our phones to essentially replace technical difficulty. I don't see that as an issue.
Okay, well, that's a good suggestion. Let me consult with the panel members, and if everyone's okay, I don't see any problem with that. Do you have any thoughts?
Y'all cool with that?
Okay, well.
Put it on to next time.
Okay, all right. So we don't have any objections, but does anybody in the room have any objections? Obviously, I think the audience, we understand, shouldn't be filmed because it's not possible to seek everybody's consent individually. But if you film people who are here, because we would be filmed otherwise anyway on the webcast, I think that's the only caveat. Otherwise, we don't have any problem with what you propose.
No.
Yeah? Okay, well, let's in that case proceed on that basis.
No, I don't have enough memory. I don't have enough memory on this phone. I just have enough.
Okay, so there is a blurb that I usually read out about there, but we've already covered this. Do we have any apologies for absence?
Oh, then I don't need to.
No apologies.
I'll hold it
Is there any urgent
table.
business? Declarations of interest? Okay, no. Right, so we have two deputations. Who's going to go first?
Right. Yes.
So you have 3 minutes. When you're ready, please make a start.
I'm ready.
Yeah, please start.
Well, I've been here before several times, and I'm here on behalf of Peacock Industrial Estates, business entities on White Hart Lane and on Highway. So there are between us around 100, more than 100 visitors. And Highway West spans, according to the tender portal advert that's on the first page, to 11 hectares, which is 120,000 square meters. I kind of gave out the document. Tender portal page, it says 120,000 square meters of land is being privatized. 120,000 square meters of land will be given to Land Lease PLC for 250 years. And then in return, we are being asked to give our land to Land Lease PLC, where we will become sub-tenants, sub-leases of Land Lease. At the time when we became aware of regeneration, we approached council. We said we are supporting regeneration, but we don't support the current format. And the regeneration officers, they didn't listen to us. In our industrial estate, we have 20,000 square meters of land, and 10,000 square meters of it is covered land. Is B1 space. And I haven't seen the contract. Maybe that the Hawthorne can help us. In here, it's proposing to give only 1,000 square meters of B1 land back to us. So the crucial figure is 10%. So they're taking away 100% from us, giving back 10%. B1. And same applies to public land and to public dwellings. Taking away more than 6 acres of public land, I'm not talking about private land now, giving back 250, 280 homes and building themselves 2,500 homes. Again, 10% for themselves. So whenever we approach the council, they ignored us. When in consultations, they whitewash our deeds. And the other thing, they held secret meetings, 19 secret meetings. And we wrote to them. We wrote to them saying, why have you held secret meetings? You are going to privatize 11 acres of land, and 20% of this land belongs to us. So if you are inviting landlords, landowners, business owners to these meetings, why were we not invited? They wrote back to us. It was a policy-making decision. That's why they didn't invite you. So what we are seeing from this scrutiny committee is Sadka is recommending that the existing business spaces should be protected. It's in the documents that I've submitted to you. So we're saying to the council, do not discriminate, do not do ethnic cleansing, protect the existing business spaces, and we don't want to be discriminated. We have enough.
Thank you.
It's very diverse. Just one sentence. Just one sentence. This council chamber is very diverse, and I'm grateful for it. But the policy making is discriminatory and racist. When I first came here 3 years ago, people asked me, "Is the policy making racist?" And I just erred, and I said, "No, it's not ethnic cleansing. It's not racist." But after studying the documents, going through everything, and during this previous campaign, I have formed the view they are racist, and we will take this on, and you need to scrutinize it.
Okay,
I don't want
Thank you very much indeed. I'm sure the panel has questions that they may like to ask. Would like to indicate. Yeah, Ruth, Councillor Gordon.
I just wonder whether you can give us a bit more of an indication of the sorts of businesses and employment and so on that has been provided by people that you represent at the moment.
On High Street, there are coffee shops, there is a barber shop, there is photocopying shop, kebab shop, eateries, dry cleaning, sweet shop, and on our industrial estate we have a session window company, mechanic, upholstery shop, joinery shop, we have restaurant crew, we have again a joinery shop, we have a timber yard with a joinery factory. We employ more than 250 people just in our industrial estate, and our turnover is more than £10 million. The covered space in our industrial estate, not High Street, is more than 5,000 square meters on our industrial estate. If you go behind it, and if you calculate that, it's around 10,000 square meters. Taking away 10,000 square meters, B1 space with 250 employment opportunities, more than 50 business entities, and giving back only 10%. 1,000 square meters. That's what it says, 1,000 square meters. I trust the contract is 1,000 square meters as well. Probably you have sold us. Tell me, is it 1,000 or 10,000?
Councillor Hare, okay, for the moment you're speaking to the panel, and then obviously we will take on board whatever you tell us, then we will lobby the relevant cabinet members. So, Councillor Hare.
Well, that people have been there for 70 years and 30 odd years as well.
Yeah, thank you. So on the planning committee just on Monday evening, I asked, there was another estate which has gone so far through the planning process we can't change it, that the report gave no indication of breakdown of the types of jobs, types of businesses, and also no reflection of how businesses are likely to change. And this is not so much a question, but it's just a comment. I think that's really important for you. It's important to me, so it's much more important to you to show how those spaces, the jobs, the businesses, what they provide now, and also how London businesses and how they are changing. Because I think that personally that those sorts of maker businesses are really a lot of the future.
You're always there.
I have been.
We are mainly manufacturing, and we are mainly workshops. And because of regeneration, increasingly the manufacturing and workshop places are disappearing. Sarah Lovell, in her report back in 2015, you can make disclosure to the committee, identified that 82.5% of the ethnic makeup is ethnic minority, and she earmarked 92 businesses to be disrupted, i.e. a code word for demolishing and scorched to earth. But she doesn't tell us which 92 businesses will be shifted away. So, Brian's factory, timber yard factory, is quite large, attractive premium land. He employs more than 30 people. He doesn't have space to go anywhere. He doesn't want to go anywhere. Or Martin doesn't want to go anywhere. We are all local. We want to remain in our own spaces. As business entities, maybe council might not be aware. We are quite successful in our own right. Some of us have won awards. I mean, because of this, for example, because of this regeneration, in order to raise our profile, we even held an exhibition in Tate Modern for one whole week, promoting North London and raising the poll for Tottenham, saying we need an alternative regeneration, a regeneration with the community, not against the community. And Sadiq Khan has made the recommendations for keeping the existing business spaces back in 2016, I believe. And the tender document doesn't take that into account. So the tender document discriminates in terms of space, discriminates in terms of disrupting all ethnic minority businesses, and it also discriminates in terms of getting rid of 92 business spaces. And we don't know which 92 business spaces they are. Maybe there are secret stocks somewhere on our board. We don't know. I mean, maybe you can scrutinize and explore which businesses are going to be taken away. Because once we are moved away, we won't be able to function anymore. Not as a chair of the Peacock Investment, but wearing the head of business executive of my own company, I employ 34 staff. Once I'm taken out of that neighborhood, probably I will close down the manufacturing section. So we are not, most of us pay more than London living wage to our staff. We don't even pay minimum wage. The corporates that you entertain, where you go and sip champagne, they only pay London minimum wage.
Yeah.
Most of us in here are paying more than London living wage.
We also train people, and we give employment which is of a higher quality than the kind of minimum wage stuff, which is what will come after this development in the coffee shops and nail bars that will be in the bottom floors of the flat blocks that are proposed. It takes a long time to generate a mature business to the point where it can last and employ people and train people. And you have at the moment 20 to 30 businesses on that estate that all do that. And most of them, personally, I can't survive. If I lose my workshop, I will have to close down because I can't get somewhere else equivalent nearby, and I'm too old to start again from scratch. I've spent a lifetime getting to the point where I own it. I don't see why I should lose it, and it also means that all the skill and the employment that I've spent years developing will be lost, and as with lots of the other people here.
Do we have any other questions? Councillor Barnes.
Your privilege on your business premises, and that's not what's been offered back. And also just to clarify how much consultation occurred, how involved you felt in the process, what that looked like.
Can we take the second question as well, because we're short of time?
It leads into that actually, so I might not need it. You spoke very quickly at the beginning. I think what you said is there's 120,000 square metres of industrial or business space currently, of which you have 5,000 square metres of covered space, 10,000 square metres open behind, including the open space behind. And are you saying that the re-provision is going to be 10% of that?
No, the High Road West scheme is, according to council documents, around 120,000 square metres. Yeah? Half of it is public, half of it is private lands. and we own around 20,000 square meters of it. And in our section, we have around 10,000 square meters of B1 manufacturing space. And so we own around 20,000 square meters of land. We are one of the largest landowners in the area. But when I say we own, I mean there are around 60, 70 of us. It's kind of little pockets. So, and the council is saying, we will pay you the money so you can go and buy somewhere else. What they're offering is for 125 square meters plus 4 parking spaces, £345,000. It's in public domain in land registry documents. Even though you sign NDA agreements, we do go around them and we can find out all the info that you hide behind NDA agreements. £345,000 for industrial units plus £100,000 for bugger off and leave the area. So £445,000. For £445,000, you can't buy anything in the neighborhood. There isn't land available. There isn't a workshop. There isn't a B1 space. I mean, in number 1 White Hart Lane, they're building new shiny blocks. I asked how much 1B unit costs, and they're saying it's not for sale. You can become a tenant. They just sent all of us B1 upwards. Come and become our tenant because it's an asset, and no one wants to keep that asset.
So the point I was going to get to. So what is the re-provision, as you understand, of B1 space and be offered to you?
They're not offering. They're saying to us, as far as we understand, 90% of us should leave the area, 90%, and only 10% few select lucky ones who can fit in with Costa Coffee Shop, Starbucks, TK Maxx can remain. So that's what they are proposing. 10%.
The question about
the ownerships.
and the consultation.
We did the consultation. We were not consulted. Love Lane Estate and some of the local residents were properly consulted, and we received planning documentation, and all of us wrote back with constructive criticisms, and all our, this gentleman wrote detailed correspondence. Maybe you can.
The consultation
was whitewashed.
It was right. Basically, the consultation process was in order to rubber stamp the High Road West scheme. They had to go through certain procedures and show that they consulted the community. We kept going to meetings and they kept saying, no, sorry, this isn't the meeting for you to talk. You can't ask those questions there. In the end, we asked for our own supplementary meeting with a representative from the planning department, and we voiced all our complaints, but that wasn't included in the main responses to the consultation, which was largely a question of ticking boxes saying, would you like a new school, would you like a new park, would you like more jobs, would you like more GPs? Of course everyone's going to say yes. But that's like saying, would you like more chocolate and balloons? But either way, it was doing the job that they wanted in order to justify, to be able to progress the High Road West scheme. But I wrote a letter which is on record with the council to, I think, Stephen Kelly, saying, listing our complaints, and nothing's happened like that. The council also said that they would come and see us and talk about what was going to happen to our businesses. That has not happened at all. I've not had a single visit, and I went myself to visit the planning department and asked them what they were proposing to do, and they said they'd get back to me, but they were looking at alternatives. Nothing has happened. There has been no concern about what's happening to our businesses.
What date was that?
That was 7 years ago. My business has been in limbo for 7 years. Imagine if you didn't know what you were doing since 2013.
It's not even that, we've actually had meetings with people from Haringey, someone like Helen Fisher, who's supposed to be a leader in the region, and even she's gone on record saying that the business community consultation was rejected. We wasn't consulted properly. We might have if we turned around and said that, you know, we voiced our opinions, we were told, you know, well, do you want to be another archway? You know, everything was about archway shift metal at the time, and, you know, that was a form of, you know, bullying some certain people, which is not right.
Well, we're going to go to...
Sorry, can I just say, something? Put on business group. What are any shops? We never got consultation. 4th of October.
Guys,
We had
if you heckle, I actually can't hear what you're saying.
Which one strategy do you say?
Okay, well,
last year.
if you could, whoever's speaking, if you could speak loudly like me, so that everybody at the top can
What Hart
hear.
Lane shops, all the businesses, we never got consultation. Last year, 4th of October, we had Tottenham Traders meeting. Charles Ajay was there. I told him, we had nothing. You didn't come and see us. He promised me I will send someone and I will come and see you. Yeah? I'm still waiting. Since last year. And in 2 minutes, he got disappeared. I got something else, he ran away because he didn't want to listen to us. If you can't come and tell us what's going on, we find out last year, actually, what Hart Lane shops is going to be demolished. This thing going on since 2014. My next door neighbour, he paid so much money before he bought his shop, the kebab shop, 2.5 years ago, done all the searches, everything by Haringey Council, if they're going to be demolished. The answer come back, no. They got evidence in their hands. By the solicitors, yeah? And a year later, or a year and a half later, we find out it's going to be demolished. The guys there pay so much money for that shop. Where's the justice in this?
Tell them.
We've got one more question from Councillor Stoke. Any other questions? Okay, yeah. All right. We've got one other deputation. I've got one question that I could ask, or I'd like to ask, which is, what is your big ask? One big ask of this panel, which you could tell us very, very quickly.
Basically, we want thorough scrutiny from you, an investigation, so all the background of this can be investigated. Why are they giving us 1,000 square meters? Why has council regeneration team sold our interests to developers? And why are we getting a poor return? And why are we being discriminated constantly? We had, I mean, just a very simple, basic example. We had an art installation event in Tate Modern, and I asked the social team of Haringey Council to do a simple tweet message about it. They wouldn't do it, but they do it for Tottenham Hotspur's coffee shop. The coffee shop of Tottenham Hotspur's is very important. They tweet it and tweet it again. But when we have a Tate Modern event, it's not tweeted. Why?
Okay. All right. So thank you very much for your time. So I don't think we are making any contributions from the audience. Thank you very much, but we're going to go to the second deputation. We have an agenda to get through. I do apologize.
Phone's running out.
We're going to hear from Peacock.
I'll try and do it, but it might finish in a minute. Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Hi.
Please start. You have 3 minutes to speak. I'll let you know when the time is coming to an end, so that you can wind up.
Okay, I'm Joanna Morrison. Yeah, I was just about to. I was just about to. Yeah. My name is Joanna Morrison. I am chair of Taglove Lane. Yeah.
I'm Tash Bonner. I'm co-chair of Taglove Lane.
I'm Kaz, and I'm one of the core members of Tag Love Lane and a resident at Love Lane Estate as well.
Thank you. Please start.
Okay. We are Tag Love Lane, a group of residents on the Love Lane Estate included... Oh, you can't hear me. Oh, sorry. All right. Included in the proposed High Road West regeneration scheme. Today, we would like to address the scrutiny panel to focus your attention to the High Road West development scheme and the list of subsequent issues that have impacted the lives of families involved, as this is now a matter of urgency. The proposed scheme appointed Lendlease as its preferred developer in 2017, and since then a number of significant changes have taken place that impact upon the viability of the plans as originally formulated. Yet these changes seem to have been ignored, and the plans have been allowed to go ahead with no visible scrutiny for the impact this may have on the residents. The first of many changes, and possibly the most significant, is the change in the administration of the political leadership of the council, who apparently have different aspirations and purposes. Yet the plans formulated by the previous administration are still being driven forward. Such a shift in leadership and the vast changes made to the positions of other councillors within Haringey must be scrutinised. Further to that point, this scheme was predicted on a very different set of political expectations, particularly in relation to Sadiq Khan's GLA funding and the related residence balance, which was not considered nor intended for when plans were first formulated. If it had been, we wouldn't be in the current situation we are in today. The resident makeup of Love Lane Estate has undergone significant changes too, with the majority of the estate now comprising of temporary accommodation tenants, who almost all of which were not part of the initial HRW consultation conducted in 2012-2013. This must be scrutinised, otherwise how else can Haringey Council deliver redevelopment that truly favours the communities most impacted? A lack of scrutiny and a willingness to drive full steam ahead without due diligence or consideration for the people most affected has contributed to a human dilemma, where my neighbours, my community, and myself have been subject to poor standards of treatment at the hands of Haringey Council and their related third parties. In essence, what we are asking for is a fresh review of the current situation, a full in-depth investigation that will explore and resolve all the aspects and elements that make up the current issues surrounding this specific redevelopment. We are also asking that part of the scrutiny is dedicated to ensuring all temporary accommodation tenants on the Love Lane Estate are rehoused permanently in a council property at council rents in the immediate area. We are not asking for much, we are simply demanding what is already ours.
Thank you very much, especially for keeping to your 2 minutes allocated time. I know that you are quite passionate about the issues, but if you keep heckling, we can't hear, especially because we don't have microphones this evening. So please.
It's not our fault the council's useless at technology.
You know, it's they give them space to talk
consulted
about.
at the beginning if we want to proceed. And the reason we are proceeding tonight in consultation with those who are coming to speak to us. But it's only fair that we're able to hear them and they're able to hear us. If we heckle, that becomes more difficult. So please respect that.
Did you allow us to charity for the night?
Anyway, someone's got a problem. So do you have, the panel, do you have any questions? Yeah. Councillor Hay.
I believe a large number of the properties at Love Lane were refurbished to decent home standard. Was that all of them, or just a proportion?
I can only talk about my current situation. When I was given temporary accommodation 3 years ago, it was not in a good state. Had problems with a lot of things, and I don't think a lot of the houses were in a good state given to anybody. That's just my personal situation.
Councillor Gordon.
Yeah, hi. Thanks very much for coming along. Can you just give us some idea about the length of time that you've been effectively a council tenant, but on a temporary tenancy? So in terms of, you know, if the people that are part of TAG, you know, have we got people that have been living there just for 6 months, or how long have people been living as temporary accommodation in their council home?
It varies. It varies. I mean, there's some who have literally just moved in. We're talking less than 2 months ago, and to a complete opposite, to a complete polar opposite to people who have been on the council waiting list for 11 years and still in temporary accommodation. So it isn't like one of those situations by which everyone's going through the same thing. Although we're all under the same human dilemma that Joanna mentioned, some situations are effectively worse than the others, but nonetheless, we're all under the same boat to some extent, you know. So it varies. Some have been there for short periods, and some have been there for quite lengthy. We're talking over a decade, which is frankly unacceptable. And I think a decade being on the waiting list, like the Peacock Industrial Estate said, waiting, keeping your life in the balance or your business in the balance for over 5 years, 6 years, a decade, in my opinion at least, and I think I'd probably share the support of everyone else here, that's enough to be scrutinised, you know, like that needs to be addressed. It has to be. There's no way we can continue to full steam ahead, you know, thinking like if we keep our heads down and keep ploughing forward, then this regeneration is just going to happen, and then we're all going to be able to clap and cheer at the end, you know. I think, as Kaz said, as Joanna says, it needs to be scrutinised.
Yes, just following on from that. So I'm just wondering whether you think you could explain to us what you think are the consequences of people being, you know, in a council place, but they've been in there for such a long period with an insecure tenancy. What are the human consequences of that, in your opinion?
Well, I actually spoke to a resident today who has been waiting for 11 years. I spoke to a resident today who's been waiting for 11 years for permanent. He's been in temporary, I think 4 years on Love Lane. And he explained most of the time it doesn't only affect the parents, it affects their children. So you've got his eldest son who's had to travel all the way through to Islington to go to school and move from school to school. And for a child of whatever age, it's distressing because you're leaving a safe haven and you'll move somewhere else. And for children, if you do know, if you've ever been to school and moved to a school, you have to make new friends. You might get bullied. It might be a different situation, a different environment. And that's not fair. You're potentially, what Haringey Council are doing, you're not only affecting parents, you're affecting children. I'm blessed enough that my children are young, but if it gets to a point where they're older and I don't know what I'm doing, where I'm taking them to school, there's no like, how to say, stability. Thank you, guys. There's no stability in their lives. It causes anxiety. It causes some people depression. I mean, looking at a new stadium is giving me anxiety because you know something's about to happen, but we haven't been consulted correctly. This needs to be relooked at. We need to be housed. That's what we want. We want to be permanently homed. We don't want to be moved from here to here to here. That is not fair. At the end of the day, Haringey Council put me and everyone on this panel and majority of whoever is on the estate in a situation where you know you're going to get rid of the building, but you don't know what you're doing with the people there. Do not treat us like numbers. Don't do that to people. It's just ridiculous. It's a horrible situation to be in. That's what I want to say.
We'll take two questions at a time. Councillor Williams.
If I start breaking down, smash someone's head in. That's fine, I've got it.
So I have two questions. One is about the last time we saw you, you spoke of the circumstances on the estate, but some of the housing was very poor.
It's not relevant, no. Don't.
We're not going to talk about that.
No, that's irrelevant. We're here to change a policy.
To finish my question was, we were informed that lots of actions have taken place to rectify that. Can you just report back whether that has occurred? Do you think to your satisfaction?
I'm talking about it.
I think hold fire on that. We'll take the question.
Talking about that.
Have you? Yeah. Okay, let's take all the questions. Sorry.
after that, we heard from Reverend Nicholson last time about the thing you mentioned at first, which is to be in a temporary situation for 10, 11 years. Do you think that's circumstances enough, that it's exceptionally enough, that there could be an argument that a special case should be made for a temporary change in our housing policy to allow you to get full secure tenancies in those properties now and not to join the list of all the other people in temporary accommodation waiting for those? Because we do have a history of some exceptional circumstances where that has occurred, but you can understand that could be perceived as an unfairness. Do you think your circumstances would fit some criteria for you to get that where others don't?
Most definitely. So there's two questions. Let me, can I answer that and then take Dawn's question?
I'm just conscious of the time. We don't have a lot of time.
Cool. Okay, so to answer your first question, yes, some things have changed in terms of the general upkeep of the estate. Equally, in other areas, some have declined. So it's not one of those things. And I think if we all dig enough through the files, I'm sure there's reports that to essentially answer the question, your first question, in response to your second question, that's exactly what we're asking for. What we need is a very specific policy change to essentially protect temporary accommodation tenants, because we're seeing many cases where temporary accommodation tenants are being shipped in like numbers into redevelopment sites that councils are aware of, and then being shipped off again like numbers again, And so, yes, I think there should be a very specific for Love Lane, and also to back up the Peacock industrial estate as well, for our specific redevelopment, we should have specific rules to cater to us. Otherwise, how are you providing a redevelopment that favours the community that essentially will essentially be displaced, So, yes, I think we should. There should be a change to the policy for us. I'll happily answer it.
Yeah.
What's the first you spoke about?
About the estate ballot and residents receiving letters about moving on.
Yeah. So, yeah, there are two separate situations. I'd like to touch on the letters that we've been receiving. There seems to be a sense of similar to the Peacock industrial estate, seems to be a sense of like a bullying tactic to try and get people to move off, or a suggestive tactic to open up the options to people that are available for people in temporary accommodation, when we are already aware that the only options are either move on to another temporary accommodation, more than likely out of the borough, if not out of the city, or move into the private sector, which essentially full circle leads you straight back into temporary accommodation. So when we're receiving these letters, and I think Dawn's clearly picked it up from Twitter, this needs to stop. It needs to stop, period. Like, we're already in a very lucrative and a very specific and very tender situation. To be receiving letters, highlighting our options that aren't really options is only making us feel even more uncomfortable. So, I mean, we've already made our stance pretty clear on that, but I'd like to make this publicly. It needs to stop. Secondly, in regards to the ballot, it kind of ties into that, in fact, because not only are we being bullied, in a sense, not only are we being pressured, we're also being left in the balance. We also don't know what's going on. So while we're being kind of like suggestively pushed out, the actual real option, which is the ballot, which is the only power, well, I'll say only, but some of the main power that we have right now is still being kept and hanging above our heads with very little communication. We've had like 3 delays on the ballot. Yeah. 3 delays on the ballot. And every time we've asked, and I mean, we've asked Dan Hawthorne and Councillor Ibrahim and Councillor and Joe Ejiofor as well, we're constantly being told, we're just working out we're trying to work out how to essentially provide you with the best landlord offer. We're not asking for much, like Joanna said. We're really literally asking for what is ours, and that is a home, and a home that we're entitled to. So this idea of trying to work out how to best favour us, the answers are there. We've given them to you. Essentially, all you have to do as a council is not only scrutinise the process that's been going on since 2012, but also look at the situation from fresh eyes and go, all right, cool, well, how can we favour these people? And I think it comes down to what Councillor Williams said. It basically comes down to a policy change, because if not, then we're going to join the back line of thousands of people, and coming from, I guess, a more objective standpoint, if I was on your side, I would want to get rid of the housing list as well and try to break down those numbers. And we're not going to break down those numbers if you're constantly displacing us and put us in other places and other locations. So help us help you.
Basically.
Do
we have any other questions?
Equalities impact assessment.
Another question that's going to be a proposal.
Go on.
Well, I'd like to propose that we do take this as a full scrutiny review into the panel. I think there's enough meat evidence that we can gather and look at and come to some conclusions if we go for a full scrutiny review.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we would be absolutely happy to do that. So thank you very much indeed for your representations.
Thank you.
We'll definitely take that on board, and that will be an area that we'll take on as a full scrutiny review. And I also understand that the deputation that we had from Peacock, in some ways, that is also complementary, since it's all part of the same regeneration scheme. Obviously, it's a discussion that we will have between the panel members in terms of working out the terms of reference, but we will definitely be in touch, and some of you we may invite to give evidence and to help us with that process. So you will hear from us again. Thank you very much.
Might I just, thank you. I've just got these just to hand out. So basically, while we're on the topic of proposals, I'd like to hand these out. Feel free to read them.
Do we ensure there's an equalities impact assessment in this process? Sure. The last deal we had with Lendlease was a racist housing deal. We don't want to do it again, do we?
Okay.
We don't cover ourselves. We've moved on, haven't we? Hello? Anybody home?
Yeah, we'll look at that as well to see what.
We don't want to be racist, do we? We don't want to be racist. Being low life racist scum is somewhere a little bit higher than that. Well, I hope we got rid of the coal rights.
Okay, thanks very much. So we're going to now move on with the rest of the items on the agenda. Okay, we come on item 6, which is the minutes of the last meeting that was held on the 10th of June.